we've had so much change, haven't we? And it's inevitable, I think, that people will start to question their own purpose. It may well be that the organisation's purpose is not what it was, that maybe that's changed. And all that change that's been going on, plus lots of other things, might well mean that people have started to question why they're doing what they're doing, and maybe even come up with a different purpose.
The question is from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Ricky from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Richard from Thinking Focus.
Hi, and I'm Paul from Thinking Focus.
Today, gentlemen, we're talking about how do I re-engage my people? So let's explore that. What do you think, Richard? Particularly in context of obviously the current backdrop, pandemic, people returning to work, or maybe not returning to work with this hybrid approach. What are your thoughts?
So I guess what we're saying in the question, how do I re-engage my people, is the fact that the thought process here is that some people might not be as engaged as they were pre-pandemic. Is that right? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think the reality is in the current environment, there's probably some mojos that have probably gone awry. Some people maybe have lost that mojo. Maybe even the company is quite comfortable with where they are, but actually some individuals have lost perhaps how they connect with the organisation within that.
Well, we've had so much change, haven't we, in the last 18, 19 months. And it's inevitable, I think, that throughout that, people will start to question their own purpose. Why am I doing this? What do I want from work? What do I want from life? But also, it may well be that the organisation's purpose is not what it was, that maybe that's changed. Or maybe it's not been articulated very much because it's been almost a survival strategy for lots of businesses. Just get your head down, let's just do the basics type thing. And all that change that's been going on, plus lots of other things, might well mean that people have started to question why they're doing what they're doing, and maybe even come up with a different purpose. Paul?
Well, I think there's another point here, which is for a lot of people, it's easy to think as the pandemic ends and we go back to kind of normal, and I'm doing little air quotes to say normal because I'm not sure it is normal. But people think that it's all over and we're back to where we started from. And a lot of people are coming back into the workplace and finding their purpose it hasn't changed. It's just kind of still on hold because there's loads of other things going on. There's short-term implications as we sort other issues out. So it might mean that the reason you're here, the thing that you're trying to do, isn't as important right now as it might have been 6 months or a year ago, because it's just dropped down the pecking order. And that might just be a temporary thing. It might be that actually, we don't want sales to go out and win massive deals right now because we're just sorting out the operations again, or we're getting things back up to speed, or we've got a backlog of work that we need to fulfill first. And so if you're a salesperson in that situation, your purpose hasn't changed. It's just kind of on hold. So you're sitting there going, well, what do I do?
That's a really good point. I imagine that's quite frustrating, though, because as a salesperson in that example, your job is to go and win deals, and you feel like you're kind of trying to perform with one hand tied behind your back. So I can imagine that's probably frustrating.
Yeah, I think it's very frustrating. It's also very demotivating because you're starting to go, well, if I can't do what I think I'm here to do, what's the point of me? Why am I coming in here every day and trying if I'm not allowed to do the thing that I believe is core and central to what it is I do?
So what you're talking about then is that actually, due to the trading conditions that many organisations might have been in, that might cause organisations to have to sort of repair different bits of the organisation and put on hold other things they were doing, which therefore might have that knock-on effect to purpose and identity about, in this example, a salesperson.
Yeah, or, I can imagine if you're an R&D right now, you might be going, well, we normally launch our products in the fourth quarter, and management might be saying to you, not this year. Let's not put a new product out right now. Let's hold it back for 6 months. And so that's going to affect your purpose. There's a whole number of reasons that different departments could be just being told to just back off for a little bit. Let us get something else sorted.
Where I was coming from is the other end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum being that actually people have had a lot of time to work remotely, a lot of time to sort of organize their work and life in a different way, a lot of time to think. You'll have probably had a lot of people who've been furloughed, who are back working again, that are maybe going, this isn't what I want. This wasn't what I was, what I was thinking my future was going to be like. I've reevaluated a bit. So you've got those two different ends of the spectrum, if you see what I mean. And I think that, again, might mean that people need to be, you need to think about how you re-engage with your people to understand where they are and how they're feeling, whichever end of that spectrum that they're at.
Richard, I think that's a really interesting point. But I imagine that actually what they've been through isn't what any of us would consider normal. So it's kind of a false position. What do you think, Paul?
Oh, what do I think? Actually, it's an interesting question. I think in this particular scenario, you've got two sides to this. You've got what I'd like to call meaning of work and meaningful work. So the organisational purpose is what we're doing important. And actually, do I get meaning from this? Does it work for me? And I think you're right. All of that is genuinely up for grabs as we come back in off the back of a pandemic, because people have rethought what they want out of work. Work has rethought what they want to do and where we want to go. And actually, we're at this probably sort of perfect storm of going, if as we get into the next few months and people come back into a different working style, we don't go back to purpose and go, well, why are we here? What is it we're trying to do? Even if that's what we're trying to do in the short term, and what's in it for everybody? Why are you individually here? If we don't start having those conversations right now, we're in real risk of having demotivated, disengaged people who have rethought what they want out of their life. And suddenly it's gone from, can you just hold that project for 3 months, to actually really talented people going, why am I here? Do I even want to work for this place anymore? It's pointless. And that, as I just say, Richard, as a leader, I think that would be a huge mistake for not having what is a difficult but relevant conversation now.
Do we think the average organisation, the average leader, chief exec, managing director, whatever you call it, do you think they think about purpose that often? Or do you think it's more task, numbers, get the job done, satisfy customers, whatever? And therefore, will that really be the forefront of their mind, or will it be all about, making sure we finish the year in the right position?
I wonder if it's one of those kind of urgency important things, which is, I think, because we work with a lot of very senior people in organizations, they do think about purpose. When they sit down with us and they talk about it, Richard, you and I have done one this week with a very senior person. And, the whole group of them really enjoyed the conversation, got a lot out of it. That's purpose is relatively important to them. However, there's a billion things on their to-do list. And so it's really easy for those purpose conversations to get bumped to tomorrow, and then the day after, and then the day after. And so you think about, everything on people's plates right now. We're sitting here in August recording this. So it's kind of, people are probably having a bit of summer chill while we're recording this. When it goes out, it's probably going to be September. People are coming back into the workplace, and suddenly there's a million things that need to be done, probably before Christmas. And purpose is a nice conversation to have, not a need conversation to have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I think when you add to that, though, that we've been very tactical in the last 18 months. We've been navigating I know it's an overused word now, unprecedented times. We've been navigating a ever-changing landscape. Today we're doing this. Oh, no, tomorrow, now we need to do something different. And it's really hard to snap out of that tactical thinking and elevate that back up and have that purpose conversation that says, what do we want to be when we grow up? What's the meaning of life for us organizationally? And then enable people or help people to reconnect with that purpose. And for some, that may well have changed in the meantime, but that's the case anyway. People do. They kind of, they either converge or they diverge away from what the organizational purpose is. Because, people used to leave before, people used to change their minds before, none of that's changed. So actually, from an organization standpoint, what do we care about? What is consistent, and how do we communicate that on a regular basis. And I think your point, Paul, is absolutely valid, that we just got stuck in the weeds almost, making the organisation as effective as possible in the difficult situation that we found ourselves.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, you go even in organisations that don't do this well or don't talk about it a lot, it kind of happens in the background occasionally. This is probably for most people the longest period of time where people haven't been in a room, haven't had really honest and open conversations, sometimes challenging conversations, because particularly when you get to personal purpose and why am I here and why am I doing this work, that's a difficult conversation to have, even at a senior level, to find out that somebody you rely on is suddenly going, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. So we tend to avoid those conversations, and we've avoided them for 18 months in a lot of cases. That's a really long time. So I think the difference between now and sort of the normal thing we're used to is normally it's a kind of slow creep of one person over there is now slightly disengaged, or this person over here is rethinking their life. Whereas right now it's kind of a perfect storm of lots of people are disconnected from the purpose and lots of people are rethinking what they want out of their lives.
Well, and lots of people will rethink as we go back, maybe for a short period of time, who knows, to working in a way that resembles the way we worked before.
Yeah,
people will inevitably start to rethink, well, is this what I want? Is this what I'm hoping to do? Are we doing the right things? People are inevitably going to start thinking about that stuff, because it's a change. It's a major change again, isn't it? But I'm just not that convinced that there's that many senior leaders that think regularly about purpose and think regularly about how connected their people are to the purpose. I think, like you said, it's more in the background. It comes up every now and then, and now is really a key point, because we've been through so many changes. Things have gone in, we've gone into survival mode, and now as we come out, and everyone's had this time to sit and think about the meaning of their own life and what they do and what they don't like and what they want to do in the future and all that stuff. I think this is the key point when we actually need to elevate this to a really important conversation, an urgent conversation that's going to allow us to make sure we connect the people that we've got in the business, not to just the stuff they need to do every day, but to the meaning of what we're trying to achieve longer term.
I think you're right, Rich. I think leaders do think about it, but they don't understand the importance of keeping this at the forefront. This is, our purpose is what drives the decisions we make. It's what drives, how we even go to market, how we organize behind that, and understanding that kind of guiding, North Star as it's often described. How do we re-engage with the people? How do we connect with them so they can understand what does this now look like for them, particularly isn't going to be the same as the way we used to work. There are going to be variations of how we do the job that we do. And I imagine that, that's probably not the thing that they're thinking about, because they've gone, yeah, we've done the purpose. Everybody knows it. But actually we know that it's really easy to lose that as we get into the meat of the everyday, doing the tactical things that have either kept us in business or coped with increases that have come as a result of the situation that we've found.
Yeah, I agree. I think people, and the risk of that as well is when you don't talk about the higher level purpose stuff for a while, people start to relate to the activity, not the reason behind the activity.
Well, it's really interesting. This week I've had a conversation with a new client, and the only thing their people believe that's important to them is financial numbers, EBITDA. That's all they talk about. They never talk about, the customers that they're supporting, the end customer or the end user of their particular product. They only talk about EBIT. So people in the business go, well, you're only bothered about the money. So every decision you make is always going to be financially motivated. And whilst that's true, actually the guiding star as to why we do that is very different in reality. So their people are not connecting, and actually they're going, well, it's just money, isn't it? That's all you're interested in. And it's really hard to get excited about just the money, isn't it? If you're a, person on the front line or a manager running a team within that organisation.
And that's, it's that thing about we get what we focus on. So if as a leadership team, what we talk about all the time is EBITDA, profit, drive costs down, maximize profit. And that's not a bad thing, clearly, because, we're running a business like everybody else. And that's super important. But what you'll get then, as you say, Ricky, is people that make decisions that just aligns with that. And those decisions might not align with what's best for the customer, what's best for colleagues, and those sorts of things. So I think at this point, it becomes quite important to really ask the question that says, why are we here? Why are we doing this? And then go in and talking to colleagues in the business to say, like your point, Paul, is it meaningful work? Why is this meaningful for you? Because if it is just to line the pockets of shareholders, why is that meaningful for anybody? That tends not to be what, gets people out of bed in the morning. Oh, I want to go and make some more money for the shareholders. I don't believe there's many people that get out of bed in the morning for that.
No, but you can find meaning in that if there's something in it for you. So, I've worked in those organisations where clearly the shareholder return is a really high importance thing.
And I'm not saying it shouldn't be. But I'm not saying it should be. Obviously,
and I'm not saying it shouldn't be either. But if you can find the trade-off, if I've worked in those organisations where you go, and in return we're going to give you access to types of work you've never done before, or experiences you've not done before, or we're going to give you something for your CV, or we're going to give you,
or you're going to grow in this way.
Suddenly you go, okay, I find this work meaningful. I might not, this might not be the highest purpose in my life, but the work is suddenly very meaningful to me because I know what I'm getting out of it. And that for me is why when we talk about this purpose bit, it's easy to go, let's focus on what the organization is trying to do and make that meaningful. And if you can do that, that's great. But not all organizations are trying to change the world. Some organizations are doing very simple, regular things. And the trade-off is that actually they can do great things for the people who work there.
Yeah.
And so the work becomes meaningful for a whole range of different reasons.
This is why it's almost like, one of the things, I may have said it on some previous podcasts, that because we've all been working on Teams and Zoom and all that stuff, we've been able to see behind the scenes into each other's lives. You've met the dog. We've all met Paul's dogs. I think your dogs have even been on this podcast, Paul, haven't they?
I think they're going to be on this podcast when you listen back.
Yeah. We've met the dogs. We've met the kids. Partners. All that stuff. Now, what that starts to say is we start to see that it's not just a person that turns up to work. There's more to people. There's more to our colleagues. And therefore, as leaders, we need to try and connect to why are they doing this? To your point, Paul, it might not be because they want to change the world, but it might be about actually providing a comfortable living for their family. It might be about getting a teenager through university. It might be any of those things. And they're all absolutely valid, aren't they? But if as leaders we can't understand our people and connect to that, then we can't lead the team as effectively as we might do. And again, previous podcasts I've talked about my interest in sports psychology, but if you go and listen to a lot of elite sporting coaches or managers, one of the things that they make sure they do is they understand the whole person, because that allows them to coach them within the particular area of sport more effectively.
Well, I think if you're going to manage people, if you're going to lead people, we do need to understand, where they are in their life, what are they looking for in the short term, medium, long term, so that we can help them to get what they need out of it. That way, they're going to be more productive, more effective for us. But let's think about, we talked a lot about this. What sort of guidance would we provide for managers, leaders in this situation? What sort of guidance would we give them in terms of trying to re-engage the people? What would be the kind of pointers that we would give them?
I think it's actually quite simple, Ricky, to be fair. It's go and have the conversation. Why are we here? And accept that might not be what it was before the pandemic. It might be something that's short-term and transitory because the organization needs you to do something different or be in a different place for a period of time. But get to a consensus about what it is we're trying to do, what is the value we're trying to add, what is the thing that we're trying to create right now in this moment. Whether that's for the next 3 months or the next 3 years is irrelevant. Work that out as a team. Just go and have that conversation. And when you've got to that, the second conversation is then individually in the team, why are you here then? What do you get out of that? Because once you've had those conversations and everybody's got to a level of understanding, people will re-engage.
And I think those people that are on a different path will emerge. You'll see people that don't have an opinion or a point of view about that stuff that aligns roughly with where everybody else is. So you'll then be able to go and say, okay, that person over there that sees it really differently to everyone else, let me go and understand why that is. So again, that's also really valuable insight, isn't it? Because you're able from some of those conversations to spot early on where you've got team members that are aligned and where you've got team members that are less aligned, and then you can do something about that.
So essentially what you're saying is we need to have the conversation, we need to help people to connect with that or understand if they do or not connect with that. But essentially we need to go and talk to our people. We need to socialize what our purpose actually is and have that engaging conversation like we used to do in the good old days, if you can term them that.
Yeah, I think so. I think some managers I've worked with in the past are a bit scared of asking questions like, why this job? Why here? Why this team? What is it that brings you here every day? And they're not only that they're a bit scared to ask it because they don't quite know where that's going to go, and if they've got the skills, if you like, to have that conversation. But also, I think people are sometimes a bit scared to answer it because they've not necessarily really thought about it. How many people actually? Loads of people I've spoken to over the years would say, I don't really know why I do this. It's just, I sort of just fell into it. So people are also sometimes a bit scared to ask, and sometimes people are a bit scared to answer. But I think through having the conversation, you will cause people, not everyone, but some people to do some deeper reflection and to think about why they're doing what they're doing. And that in itself can act as a catalyst to re-engage people, or will allow them to think, actually, this isn't what I want to do. And if it isn't what somebody wants to do and they want to do something else, well, everybody's better off then, aren't they? Because someone has chosen that there's a different path for me, which allows the organisation to find the right person to put into the role, someone that can align more closely with the purpose and find meaning in the work.
Yeah, and minimally, you can have the conversation that says, "All right, this isn't your dream, or this isn't where you really want to go, but you're here. How do we make it work for you?"
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organisation, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.